Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Voice of Dr. Ye. And as you may already listen to the previous section, we talked with Michael Young, the American's bravest war correspondent, the former Green Beret, and also he is an author. He's very vocal to telling people what he has seen through his investigation. He went to the most dangerous areas in the world, including during the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and also he went to Dara Gap. He went to the border for so many times. He talked to people there, and he really sees the situation there. He provides knowledge from the front line to everyone to understand the things most journalists won't tell you, because there are very few people so capable to survive and also communicate well in such dangerous areas. They need to be very brave. They need to have the very great skills for communication. They need to know how to protect themselves. They need to be very vigilant and sensitive, and also have their own critical thinking. I mean, these are all the things very special, and we really value it. And Michael, yeah, so now actually I talk to you. My broadcast is not only talk to American audience. We also have a lot of millions of Chinese audience. They will see the Chinese transcript later, and to understand what I want to tell people. So they are really interested in your story because you are legend. You have been through so many dangerous places. You have a lot of very interesting experience in your life. And for example, we have seen that according to the introduction online, you were previously for a while being the security staff for Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson, actually, for Chinese people, is very, very special because for Chinese people, I can tell you, his song and his stories are kind of forbidden. He previously, during the early 1990s, China, at that time, there were some people try to invite Michael Young to Beijing for a music concerto, but somehow at the last step, the CCP government denied it because they are worried about Michael Jackson is on behalf of American culture, American spirit. So that will make Chinese people know too much about real American spirit and also the democracy, freedom, all these kind of values. So that's why later on, Michael Jackson is highly discredited and also kind of suppressed in China. However, among Chinese people, he has huge amount of fans and they want to know more about him. So do you think it's available for you to share a little bit things you spent with Michael Young at that time in his Netherlands ranch, and for example, what kind of most impressive things you have with him? And we also know he has very high standard for people work with him. So why you can get this work with him, get this chance to stay with him, to know about him. Can you share a little bit with our audience? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I guess that must be published about me having worked for Michael Jackson. Actually, I had left the Army. I was not in Special Forces anymore, and I was in school, actually studying. I wanted to become a physicist, and so I was studying my mathematics quite a lot. And someone actually offered me a job, and they would not tell me what the job was, other than they thought that I would be interested. And I said, well, but the person who offered the job was a serious person, so I thought, well, I'll at least look, but why won't you tell me what the job is? I'm not going to do anything illegal. And so he said, no, it's nothing like that. It's something that has to be kept under wraps. So he took me out to Neverland, and I said, oh, Michael Jackson. I'm like one of the only Green Berets that actually liked Michael Jackson, and as I was growing up, I liked his music, and so I said, oh yeah, well, what does the job consist of? So basically, just make sure nobody breaks into Neverland. So I said, basically, I can do my mathematics homework and get paid to make sure nobody hurts Michael Jackson or Neverland, right? He's like, that's it. So I took the job. And actually, it was an interesting job. I learned a lot of mathematics, and I learned that Michael Jackson has a lot of stalkers. A lot of people were really kind of crazy for Michael, and I felt sorry for the guy. Actually, I know he was super wealthy and that sort of thing, but I mean, he couldn't really have any friends. Can you imagine a life where you can't really have any friends? Like, I have friends that I grew up with I mean, one of my closest friends is somebody we were born in the same hospital 3 days apart. We're still friends and very close friends. And so I have a lot of friends from childhood that I knew from kindergarten and high school and then later in the Army. We're still friends. I get messages from them all the time, or I just call them up to say, hey, I'm in crazy Las Vegas now. You got to see this crazy place. But Michael Jackson could never really have friends like that because he's like an object to people. He must have been very lonely, actually. And loneliness is one of the ultimate pains, right? And he must have gone through his life just feeling, I might be the only person in the world that felt sorry for Michael Jackson, but I was just there at Neverland, and I thought, man, he can never have a close friend without being suspicious. So anyway, he's gone now. I've often wondered what happened with him, with the children. That's in everybody's mind, but also, we see the world that we live in. Accusations do fly around for every reason in the world. I have no idea. I know one thing: I've never trusted the press, and I'm not going to start trusting them. And there's something called the oh, good Lord, what's the name of the physicist name? Uh, Oh, I'm sorry, but there's a psychological term that one physicist made up. Oh, good Lord! Anyway, the term describes the tendency of people. He noticed it in himself when he would read about physics in newspapers and that sort of thing, and they would always mess it up, right? And then he would turn the page to read about global events or international affairs, and he would just completely believe it. Then he noticed in himself. He's like, wait a minute. They always get it wrong in physics. So why would I believe him when it comes to anything else, like international affairs, and foreign affairs and that sort of thing? So basically, that's what a lot of us tend to do. We want every time that the media talks about something that we truly know about, they tend to get it way wrong. But then you turn the page and you just believe it, right? Who knows the name of that effect? Is it the good Lord? Anyway. But the bottom line is same with Michael Jackson. So I thought at that time, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I'm not believing the media. That's for sure.
Thank you so much. This will be very interesting and also, very nice for our audience to hear from you because until now, Chinese people don't have much opportunities to know more about Michael Jackson. Sorry, and also Michael Jackson because he has a song to memorize the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square about the 1989 that massacre. So China is really, hate people doing this kind of things. So that's why China never gives this kind of opportunity for Chinese people to know about Michael Jackson. So he's really the mysterious but king of pop on behalf of American value for Chinese people. And also, so as we have already read your story and your experience in the war during that period in Afghanistan and Iraq, very amazing. And now, we are going to talk, we want to let our people know more about your experience as the bravest war correspondent in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, because you have seen so many things, you know so much as what you have seen in the Darien Gap and Southern Border now. You have your very special knowledge through the war. And here is one photo we have, we will also post it on the article later to show to our audience. So this photo is actually well known, and it is taken by you. It is about one U.S. soldier held a girl that was hurt during the attack by a suicide bomber. In this photo taken by you during your time, you was an embedded journalist, and unfortunately, this girl finally didn't survive. So you have reported so many things, delivered this precise moment to the audience from the front lines. I mean, unfortunately, as Chinese people, when we are in China, we are not allowed to receive such information. And you may heard or maybe not, in China, Iraq and Afghanistan war are used to be very important propaganda contents to be anti-Americanism. So that is China government will use these wars to be the examples to describe America's hegemony and also, they will say this is if you Chinese want to get the democracy, human rights, and freedom, this will be your future as the Iraq people or as the Afghanistan people. And end this war, and the Americans will kill you and they will torture you. This is totally different as we see from the photo you try to deliver to us. This is what we see, the humanity. We see the love from American soldier. He said about the hurt girl, and we know that you feel sad about this girl who got injured and finally dead in that area. So could you share more about your insights from the wars and what is the difference from CCP's propaganda? And so can you let our Chinese people know more about this, your unique opinions during the battle correspondent?
Yeah, I took that photo in May of 2005 in Mosul, Iraq. A suicide bomber hit one of the vehicles in a unit that I was with, and there were children all around the vehicles. The bomber could have waited just a couple of blocks and hit our guys there, but he did it when there was children around because that's how they roll. Just like the people that hand out the death jabs, also put it into the children. But he could have waited, to just wait just 1 kilometer away or even 2 blocks away, and the children wouldn't have been hurt. But Farah is the name of the girl that Mark Beeger, the name of the American soldier was Major Mark Beeger. Her name was Farah. She actually died that morning. And then another young boy beside her also died. And then some others were injured. And it blew out the windows and started some fires all over the place. And like normal suicide bombers, they want to go to heaven, and so they don't care who they kill to get there, right? Just like the people in these cults, the death jab cults and the masking cults, they don't care who they hurt to get to their version of heaven. They don't care if the children get hurt by these fake vaccines. They don't care because they're in a cult mentality, right? And so that's what we've had time and time again, and throughout time. We're going to see it more now as these borders are wide open, which is going to lead to massive warfare within the streets of the United States. But for some people, in pursuit of whatever their holy grail is of wokeness, it's okay with them. The bottom line is, I saw many days like this in Iraq and Afghanistan and other conflicts, Thailand, so many. And Hong Kong, luckily, I didn't see deaths in Hong Kong. There were a few, but I wasn't present for those. I saw a lot of injuries that the communist police put upon the good students of Hong Kong who were resisting the Chinese Communist Party. And communism is a cult. It always has been a cult since it was inspired by the cult leaders, Marx, Lenin, and so many others. So there's been a lot of communist cult leaders over time, and here it goes. And now, it spread into Stalin and over to Mao, and nobody has killed more Chinese than communists. Communists,
Exactly.
especially communist Chinese like Mao, and they like to blame Japan, but in reality, it's not Japan has been China's biggest enemy. It's been communist, right? Straight up
Yes.
communist, and Yeah.
And they also blame Americans. They blame everything for American. I mean, from the COVID-19, from the Iraq war, and from Afghanistan war, from Tiananmen Square, and from all the things they blame Americans. So people like you, as a very brave correspondent recording these things from the front line. That's why it's so important, because if Chinese people can get a chance to know the real things, definitely they have to get the information from people like you. And then at that time, CCP's all these lies, all this propaganda can be immediately, refuted. But of course, China won't allow people to have this opportunity, and that's what we are fighting for, because time flies so quickly. And before we finish this broadcast, we do have one more question to you, because for Chinese people, we know that in China, we are not allowed to have the journalists like you not on behalf of the government, to go to the front line to report the things. And Chinese journalists who stay in the Iraq war or Afghanistan war, they are the loyal CCP members. So when they go there, what they report, they do have their political direction. They have to show that all these things connect to anti-Americanism, pro-CCP, pro-communism, this kind of ideology. So our people, our Chinese audience wonder whether you can go there as a war correspondent on behalf of yourself, or not independent, but maybe work with a civilian group, or you also has to be a part of the government, federal agency, to go to do this kind of report. And do they censor your content? Thank you.
They would cause me many problems. The United States did. At times, they were very helpful when I was writing things that they liked, and then when I would write something they didn't like, they became very aggressive. So often when I was writing things that they did like, it was coincidental, right? I happened to be writing the truth. We were winning in certain areas at certain times, and I would be saying that truthfully. Or I would be saying truthfully how professional most of the soldiers were. Most of our soldiers are quite professional, actually, and they actually made me proud as an American in most instances, with some sharp departures from that. But otherwise, the vast majority of the U.S. troops, the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines and the Army, Coast Guard. I was never actually out with Coast Guard, but I was out with the Navy and the Army and the Marines quite a bit, and the Air Force. And they're very, very professional, and they actually did make me proud. And I would write that, and so that made the military like me. But I was just telling the truth, And but then when soldiers did things that would make people ashamed or not proud, I would publish those things as well. And that made some of the actually a lot of the military liked it. They're like, "Wow, you're actually saying stuff that we want to say, but there's no way we can say it. But thank you for saying it." But then there was other people in higher ranks that did or did not like it. So anyway, at times you can see I went after different generals. I attacked General McChrystal as an example, and he was one of the most popular generals. And I just went after him very hard for an extended period of time. In fact, I still go after him about once a month just for good measure, even though it's been 10 years since I won that fight. But the thing is he was a very toxic leader, what we call a toxic leader. A toxic leader or a toxic personality is one when they come into the organization, not only does the organization reject them as a whole, parts of the organization actually will tend to embrace them, but they'll make everybody fight each other. Actually, the Muslims call that fitna. So Muslims who are watching this will be familiar with it. Let me pronounce it differently, so because in case if they're speaking a different, Arabic, whatever, fitna, fitna. Many of the Muslims know what I'm talking about. Fitna is when people come in and they're toxic and they cause people to fight each other that we're getting along perfectly together. And you can see that's one of the things that the people waging the information war now against so many people around the world are trying to do. They try to make us fight each other on the masks and on the death jabs and on the so many different things. They try whether you should fly a rainbow flag. I'm not going to fly that trash. I'm not going to support the idea that women are equal to men in combat and all that. That's complete nonsense. And anybody that tells you that, I don't care if he's got a Medal of Honor. I don't care if he spent years in wars. If he's telling you that women should be in infantry positions, he's an idiot or he's a weak, compromised person. And there are people with a lot of medals in some cases that were quite courageous in combat. But when it comes time to standing up to authority, they are absolute cowards. Any man who's telling you that it's okay to put women into Marine infantry or through the Ranger School or whatnot, they are moral cowards and they cannot be trusted. But moral cowards like that can be used as toxic devices to make us fight each other, especially when they wave that medal. Oh, I got this big medal in the war. Okay, big deal. I'm so impressed by your medal. Actually, I'm not. There's a lot of people that got a lot of medals, right? And there's a lot of people that would have had a whole bucket full of those medals, right? That never got them because they weren't the right rank or something like that. I see soldiers out there that didn't get any medals that should have gotten a huge amount of them. And I see other ones getting big medals because they had big rank, right? So I'm not impressed by medals. They don't cow me down, especially when I see Medal of Honor recipients pushing that women should be in infantry. I just lose respect, right? And so, but that's the toxicity that's either created by that person organically, or it's harnessed or found in that person, and a spotlight is put on that person in service of information war to cause us to splinter and fight each other so that we can be divided and conquered. Anyway, I'm sorry, doctor. I'll go on forever, so I should stand back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for share so much information and insights. And our episode, this episode is not that long enough to tell your stories, but definitely I hope you can return to my broadcast in the future and continuously share us with your experience and your knowledge. And could you let us people know how could they find you, or if they want to support your work, what should they do?
I can be found on Truth Social at Michael Yon 1776, or on Twitter, Michael_Yon, YON, Yankee Oscar November is my last name, YON, Michael Yon, or on locals.com. Locals.com, I post there, and Substack as well, on Substack. Thank you very much.
And if they want to support your work, what can they do?
Yeah, actually, I've been reader supported since 2005. That's why I can say so many wild things that people know to be true, but they feel unsafe saying them because they might be fired from their newspaper or from their whatever they do working for an airlines. But so I've been reader supported, like for instance, PayPal, Venmo, just different methods, GiveSendGo, so many different methods. Some people send Bitcoin. So I've been reader supported, usually by small donations like $5, $10, sometimes $100. And those are extremely helpful because they do add up. And occasionally somebody will give a $500 or $1,000, which is particularly helpful, especially in these few very expensive hotels I'm in. Occasionally I have to get an expensive hotel because of the location. Other times I'm out sleeping in the jungle. My life is strange. It ranges from 5-star hotels to sleeping in a hammock with a mosquito net, So it's a strange world.
Thank you.
Thank you.